And joining us now on This Is the Day is Father Tad Pacholczyk. He serves as Senior Ethicist at the National Catholic Bioethics Center and, of course, has a doctorate in neuroscience. And today he's here to talk about a very specific issue that's been coming up the last few years that people might have heard about but don't quite understand: embryo adoption. So thanks, first of all, for being with us,
Kevin,
Father
thanks
Tad.
for having me. This is a great topic you're wanting to peruse here. You're right, it's in the news more and more. Certainly I've been doing discussions with people about in vitro fertilization, and this is always one of the side questions that comes up.
Yeah, and so for those who don't understand it quite well, maybe if you could tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so I mean, when you do in vitro fertilization, because the industry is completely unregulated, we do it different from the way they do it in Europe. In Europe, you're only allowed to make 3 embryos maximum. Here, there's no limit, so they'll make 10, 20. They'll pick out the ones that they want. They may do some genetic screening, and then all the other ones are leftovers.
Yeah.
And those end up being frozen. So we have about 1.6, 1.8 million. It's hard to know exactly what the number, just in the United States, on ice. These are human beings that are held in stasis, and there's a lot of, sadness over this by couples who later realize that they may have gone down the wrong path here and they have children trapped in liquid nitrogen. And then they wonder, well, can I take some of these embryos and give them to my sister or to my friend who could implant them, gestate them, raise them as if they were their own kids? Or is that not allowed by the church? So I just did a debate on this in Indianapolis about a week ago, and it remains a very controversial topic.
And is there a specific teaching of the church yet?
There is,
okay.
yes. So if you look at section 19 of Dignitas Personae, this is a document that came out from the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith back in 2008. So it's really the latest, if you will, document on bioethics and medical ethics. And that section 19 basically says, look, there are certain circumstances where this is a no-go. This is unacceptable. This should not be done. What are those circumstances? If you are using this as an approach to treat infertility, they say unacceptable. But then there's another paragraph that follows that says, well, some people have raised this idea of having embryo adoption and, as a way of rescuing embryos. Would this be allowable? Well, it appears to pertain of the same types of objections as we just mentioned. And those objections, just to give you sort of the sense of how this document parses it, it says if you were to do embryo implantation or embryo transfer into a woman's uterus, this would be contrary to marital fruitfulness. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means, for example, you're going to be impinging on gestational parenthood. You're going to be impinging on who has responsibility for raising the children. That gets sort of jumbled up by this. So fruitfulness is disturbed as you go down this path. Now, I sometimes use a simple example to explain this to people, which is, I have a friend, I used to be assigned on Cape Cod in my first parish, and got to know a family. They had 5 kids, and I was over there one day just playing volleyball. And out of the blue, the dad, he was a geochemist, he said, well, what about embryo adoption? I've heard about this idea. And I sort of lobbed it back to him, and I said, well, how would you feel if Heidi was implanted with somebody else's embryo? And I saw the wheels start to turn in his head. He reflected a little bit, and then he said, well, she should get pregnant only through me. And I thought, wow, he has touched an important nerve here. He recognizes there's a kind of exclusivity in terms of his wife's ability not just to conceive, but to gestate, to bear the child, to bring the child to the light of day. And this is all connected to their marital covenant. So, I'm convinced that the Vatican documents on this matter indicate that we should not be doing this. And those are some of the reasons why.
And you talked about the recent debate that you had too. What were some of the things that were popping up that the other side might bring up or in the course of the debate itself?
Yeah, one of the key arguments that I think gets put out there is to use this word adoption and to say, well, it's adoption, so it is just parallel to regular adoption of an already born baby. And my rebuttal to that was, I understand that sentiment. We all feel terrible about all the frozen embryos, but in point of fact, this is not simply adoption. What is it at its root and core? And again, the Vatican documents point to this. It is surrogacy. So it is using another woman's gestative capacities, outside the context in which they should be invoked. So that's the typical kind of an argument that one encounters, suggesting there's parallelism. And I think the parallelism actually breaks down very quickly when you scratch the surface a little deeper.
Yeah. Just about out of time, but maybe if you could speak to the couple that might be thinking about this, or maybe if you could talk to them a little bit and recognizing what they are going through.
Absolutely. And I would say the most important thing, and this is something we Catholics are not good at, is spend some time reading these documents of the Church. Because a lot of times we get it from Catholic News Service, we get some summary somewhere, and sometimes those are pretty good, but that's not quite enough. When you're trying to figure out yourself, should me and my husband attempt to do this, you need to read the documents and inform your conscience, make sure you're aware of the parameters, and make then, a conscientious decision. So I think that's the most critical advice. And, look, it's all available on the internet. The Vatican website is outstanding, as you know. Yeah. So all these materials are there.
Well, Father Tad, it's always great to have you here. And if people want to find out more about the Bioethics Center,
yes,
where they...
our website is ncbcenter.org. They can also check out my own website, which is fathertad.com.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, Kevin. Great to join you today.
Great to see you again, too.